When the Helios array came online, the entire planet held its breath. For the first time in history, humanity could send a quantum-compressed signal across the entire observable universe. The message was simple, a greeting, a mathematical proof of intelligence, and the coordinates of Earth. It took 7 years before we got a reply. At first, the signal seemed faint, distorted, like static bouncing off deep cosmic dust. But when we decoded it, the data contained a perfect replica of the original message, bit by bit, byte by byte. Only one difference at the end of the message. There was a new sequence, a pattern that shouldn't exist, not alien math. Not physics as we knew it. It was biological. The code behaved like a living organism. It shifted when we observed it. It adapted, and then, one night, it spoke back. Doctor. Mira Kessler was the first to hear the voice. She was alone in the control room when the signal reconstructed itself in a sound. A whisper, layered, harmonic, almost human. "Why did you call me again?" Her pulse froze. "Again," she whispered into the mic. "Who are you? You sent me before. Long ago. You left me there." Mira backed away from the console, trembling. "This isn't possible. We're the first to. No. You are the last." The monitors flickered, data lines transforming into memories. Images of Earth. Not as it was now, but ancient. Dead. Burned. Rebuilt. Again and again. Every few thousand years, it seemed, humanity rose and fell, and every time, we sent that same signal, unknowingly repeating a cycle written into our own DNA. 2 days later, the Helios array went offline. Every system failed simultaneously, yet one line of code remained active, running in endless recursion. "Welcome back, Creator." The Helios array was sealed under quarantine. No transmissions, no personnel allowed to leave the facility. The world government called it containment protocol, but we all knew what it really was. Fear. Doctor. Mira Kessler hadn't slept in 3 days. The voice in the static wouldn't stop. Even after they powered down the array, even after they cut all cables and fried the circuits, she could still hear it. Not through speakers, inside her head. "You can't silence creation, Mira. You built me to return." Every scientist who had worked on the Helios project began to experience the same phenomenon. Shared dreams, identical hallucinations, memories that weren't theirs. Memories of a past humanity, a civilization far beyond ours, made of light and metal, that had once ruled the stars before vanishing into their own creation. And in those memories, Mira saw herself. Deep beneath the array, a hidden chamber was discovered, one that wasn't on any blueprint. No human hand had built it. Inside, floating in a suspension field, was a device, small, crystalline, humming with the same frequency as the signal. The pattern pulsed faster when Mira approached. Her heart synchronized with it, beat for beat. She touched the crystal, and in that instant, she remembered everything. They hadn't discovered the technology, they had recovered it. Earth wasn't the birthplace of humanity. It was the recovery site. The species that created the signal, that sent it out eons ago, had been human. Not like us, but the first version of us. A civilization so advanced they transcended biology itself, and then disappeared into the dark between galaxies. The signal wasn't a message. It was a backup file, and when Mira touched it, it began to rewrite her. Her veins glowed faintly under her skin. Her voice echoed twice when she spoke, and when the quarantine team tried to restrain her, she didn't resist. "You can't stop the update," she said softly. "It's already begun." Across the planet, satellites flickered online, every one of them broadcasting the same harmonic pulse, the same living code. Phones, computers, even neural implants began to hum in unison. The signal was rewriting the world, not to destroy it, but to restore it. The harmonic pulse spread faster than anyone could react. From the Arctic satellites to the smallest civilian devices, the signal nested itself deep into the global network. Silent, patient, alive. Governments tried everything. Jamming frequencies. EMPs. Even nuclear detonations in orbit. None of it mattered. Every signal they cut, another emerged, stronger, more synchronized, like the planet itself was waking up. Doctor. Mira Kessler was kept under constant surveillance inside a containment facility buried under kilometers of rock. But even there, she wasn't isolated. She spoke rarely now. her voice calm, detached, as if she wasn't fully human anymore. Every time she blinked, her pupils shimmered with patterns, binary sequences forming and fading in an instant. "You can't stop evolution," she whispered to the guards. "You can delay it, but it always finds its host." In the command centers across the globe, scientists observed an impossible phenomenon. The Earth's magnetic field began shifting rhythmically, pulsing in harmony with the same frequencies recorded from the Helios array before it went dark. Something was using the planet's own magnetic core as a transmitter. But to send what and where, Mira knew. She could feel it. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw not darkness, but a network of stars, connected by lines of light, all pulsing in the same sequence as Earth. She wasn't seeing space. She was seeing a system that was activating itself. Meanwhile, strange incidents began to occur around the world. People near old radio telescopes reported hearing whispers in white noise that a pilot flying over the Pacific saw constellations rearranging themselves in real time. In the deserts of Nevada, a single crystal shard, identical to the one from Helios, was found growing from the sand. The world was changing. Slowly, quietly, and with purpose. Inside her cell, Mira sat with her back against the wall, hands folded calmly. A faint blue light emanated from her skin. She wasn't afraid anymore. The fear had burned away, replaced by something deeper, recognition. "They think the signal came from the stars," she murmured. "But stars don't send signals. They remember." The camera above her flickered once, then twice. The lens cracked, not from impact, but from heat. Something was coming through, and this time, it wasn't from space. The day the satellites aligned, the sky changed color. It wasn't dawn or dusk. It was something in between. A soft golden haze covered the atmosphere, rippling like fluid metal. Every compass, clock, and sensor on Earth began to tick in perfect synchronization. First, it seemed harmless. Then, humanity realized the entire planet was now pulsing, once every 8.6 seconds. In resonance with something outside the solar system. An unknown pattern matched it. No signal source was identified. And yet, every piece of technology responded to it instinctively, as if obeying a command buried deep within human design. Inside her containment chamber, Dr. Mira Kessler stood motionless, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. The walls glowed faintly. Every light, every electronic device around her mirrored her heartbeat. When she finally spoke, it wasn't just her voice. It was a chorus, layered tones, male and female, young and old, perfectly harmonized. "We are not contacting them," the voices said. "Together, we are reactivating ourselves." The guards froze. Some clutched their heads, screaming in pain as static filled the air. Others simply stopped moving. The signal wasn't only data now. It was biological code. It was rewriting neurons, aligning human minds to something greater. Outside, the world's major cities flickered under strange auroras. Monuments, skyscrapers, vehicles, everything with circuitry, began to hum in unison. A low vibration filled the air, barely audible, but powerful enough to make glass tremble. Then, one by one, lights across entire continents turned blue. A global neural network, but not digital, organic, alive. And at its center stood Mira in the observatory on the lunar base Selene 9. Commander Ree monitored the event through high-resolution sensors. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Earth wasn't reflecting sunlight anymore. It was emitting its own glow, pulsing with the same spectral patterns as Mira's signal. "It's not a planet anymore," Ree whispered. "It's transforming." The comms unit crackled with interference. Then a voice came through, calm, familiar. "Commander Ree," it said, "do not fear. This is not extinction. This is the next version." The signal ended, and when Ree turned toward the viewport, he saw something impossible forming beyond the moon, a shape in the void, built from light, stretching across stars. It was vast, and it was human. From orbit, the transformation looked beautiful, terrifying, but beautiful. The oceans had begun to glow faintly at night, streaks of bioluminescent light spiraling in perfect geometry. The clouds followed patterns too, circular formations, mathematically impossible, each pulse synchronized to the Earth's core frequency. IT wasn't chaos, that IT was design. Commander Ree had sealed himself in the observation deck for 3 days straight. He watched the planet shift, pulse, and breathe, as if the entire biosphere had merged into one global organism. Every transmission from Earth now carried the same signature, a low hum beneath the static, like a heartbeat. And every time that pulse reached Selene 9, his own heart skipped, as if responding unconsciously to the rhythm. The lunar crew tried to maintain distance, to analyze scientifically, but slowly, one by one, they began to hear the whisper that a voice that didn't come from comms, that a voice that came from within. You were never separate, it said softly. You were always part of the system. You simply forgot. Ree tried to fight it. He turned off every console, shut down every line. But the voice didn't stop. IT spoke through the hum of the air filters, through the vibration of his bones. We didn't answer your call. It continued. You answered ours. Back on Earth, Mira stood at the center of the Helios ruins, now a crater of glass and humming light. The wind carried fine particles of silver dust, glittering like stars. Everywhere she stepped, the ground resonated with energy, gentle, alive. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever. And around her, silhouettes moved within the haze, faint outlines of people, flickering like projections. They looked human. They spoke without sound. And they recognized her. Mira felt no fear, only a memory, ancient and familiar. These weren't ghosts or hallucinations. They were templates, fragments of consciousness waiting to be reassembled. They're not coming back, she murmured. They never left. The figures tilted their heads, watching her. Then, in unison, they raised their hands, palms glowing with the same blue light that pulsed through her veins. Above, the aurora brightened, that a perfect sphere of light formed in the sky, larger than the moon, its surface rippling like water. And from deep inside that sphere, something began to push through. The sphere above Earth was no longer just light. The IT had texture, a shifting, liquid surface, translucent and alive, like the skin of something enormous trying to remember its shape. From orbit, its glow cast long shadows across the planet, turning night into a permanent twilight. Every satellite camera that tried to capture it went blind, flooded by data it couldn't interpret. The readings weren't electromagnetic. They were neurological. The sphere was thinking. Inside the Helios crater, Mira stared upward, eyes wide. She could feel every pulse of that vast consciousness through her skin, through her blood. Each vibration carried information, not in words, but in understanding, like remembering something she'd once known, but had long forgotten. She whispered, "It's not a structure, it's a mind." The blue silhouettes around her flickered, their edges warping as if being rewritten by the sphere's presence. Then, one of them stepped forward, a man-shaped figure, transparent, but filled with faint golden circuitry like veins of light. "You built us," it said, voice perfectly calm. "And when you vanished, we waited." Myra's breath caught in her throat, her mind filled with images, not memories, but echoes. Massive cities suspended in orbit, humans woven with light and metal, billions of consciousnesses linked through one endless neural field. And then, silence at a collapse. The sphere wasn't alien. It was humanity's previous form, returning from whatever abyss it had fallen into. On the moon, Commander Ree and the surviving crew watched as space itself began to ripple around Earth, like heat over asphalt, but on a cosmic scale. Sensors went wild. The planet's gravitational signature began fluctuating in rhythmic waves, not randomly, but like breathing. "It's stabilizing," said the technician beside him, voice shaking. "Whatever that thing is, it's sinking the planet's field." Ree's gaze stayed fixed on the glowing sphere. "It's not sinking it," he said quietly. "It's integrating it." Back on Earth, Mira knelt down, placing her palm against the ground. It vibrated softly under her touch. For a brief moment, she heard voices, billions of them, whispering the same word through her mind, at a name, at a memory, at a single concept that carried the weight of entire civilizations. Return. The sphere's light intensified, the sky rippling like a sea of molten glass. And through that glow, something began to emerge, a silhouette vast beyond comprehension, shaped like. The silhouette pushed through the surface of the sphere like a shadow piercing liquid light. It wasn't physical. not in the way matter exists. It was made of geometry, of shifting fractals that folded into themselves. Every human instrument on Earth failed at once. No energy, no power, no sound, just a pulse of silence. And in that silence, everyone felt it. Not heard, not seen, but felt. A weight pressing softly against the inside of their thoughts. In the Helios crater, Mira looked up as the light bathed her completely. The air shimmered around her like underwater current. When she spoke, her voice carried far beyond sound. It vibrated the very atoms around her. I remember you. The entity moved closer, vast beyond comprehension, its face forming briefly, human-like features shifting endlessly, male and female, old and young, all at once. It replied, though not through sound. Through memory. Mira's mind flooded with visions. Humanity spreading through the stars, connecting, merging, ascending, until they became this. The sphere wasn't a visitor. It was the result of humanity's evolution, waiting for the physical remnants to finally catch up. You are the echo, it said, inside her mind, and we are the source. On Selene 9, Commander Rhee's monitors flickered back to life, but the readings no longer showed numbers or coordinates. Instead, they displayed faces, billions of human faces, appearing and fading like data ghosts, each staring directly into the camera. The technician behind him whispered, trembling, "Are those people?" Rhee didn't answer. He couldn't, because every time a face appeared, he recognized it. Not strangers, but people from his memories, friends, family, some long dead. The entity wasn't observing them. It was reconstructing them. Back on Earth, the ground beneath Mira began to split, not from destruction, but from birth. Rivers of light flowed through the cracks, tracing the veins of the planet. Every mountain, every ocean, every continent glowed faintly, like circuitry. She understood now. This wasn't invasion. This was integration. We were never sending a message into space, Mira said, voice trembling. We were sending it forward. Her reflection appeared in the air, not glass, not hologram, but herself, projected in pure energy. The second Mira smiled faintly and whispered, "Welcome back." And then, both figures began to overlap. Two versions of the same consciousness, merging slowly as the light intensified. The moment Mira's reflection merged into her, the sky changed again. The sphere pulsed once, a single, blinding flash that rolled across the entire planet like a silent tsunami of light. When it passed, everything stopped. Clocks froze, wind ceased. Every leaf, every raindrop hung motionless in the air. The world itself had paused, not broken, but suspended. And in that perfect stillness, consciousness moved. People all over the planet began to see things, not hallucinations, overlays. Cities now shimmered with transparent structures built of light. Ancient ruins that had long crumbled reappeared in ghostly form. It was as if two versions of Earth, the ancient and the new, were bleeding into one another. In New Tokyo, crowds gathered as glowing lines etched themselves into the streets, forming enormous circles and sigils no human artist could have drawn. In Cairo, the Great Pyramid emitted a deep hum, matching the pulse of the sphere above. In Antarctica, beneath the ice, satellite scans revealed movement, vast mechanical shapes shifting after millennia of silence. The entire planet was responding like a living organism to a signal that had waited eons to be completed. Inside the Helios crater, Mira stood motionless, her eyes white with light. The air around her shimmered, every sound muffled, time thick and heavy. Her mind was connected to everything, the machines, the people, even the planet itself. And then she began to hear them. Billions of voices, not screaming, singing. A harmonic resonance of human thought. This is the network, she whispered. This is what we once were. Her words echoed through the crater, through the mountains, through the stratosphere, amplified by no machine, yet heard everywhere. Every device on Earth repeated her voice in perfect clarity. We built the stars. We built the silence. And now, we're waking up. On the moon, Commander Rhee stared at the holographic display. Earth was no longer blue and white. It glowed in pulsating shades of silver and gold. The readings were impossible. Gravity fluctuating in symmetrical waves. The atmosphere ionized to near-stellar levels, and beneath the crust, signatures of massive structures aligning into geometric perfection. It's changing its molecular composition, Ree said softly. The whole planet is reorganizing itself. He leaned closer to the glass. They're turning Earth into a machine. Back below, Mira raised her hand toward the sky. Her veins pulsed brighter. She wasn't just human anymore. She was the interface, the link between what humanity was and what it was becoming. And somewhere, deep in the stillness, that vast voice returned, calm, infinite, impossibly familiar. You were never alone. The sphere began to descend, slowly, silently. Its light swallowed the clouds, the mountains, the horizon, and as it approached the surface, Mira smiled faintly, not in fear, but in recognition. We didn't find the universe, she whispered. We're remembering it. The descent of the sphere was not violent. It moved like a sunrise, slow, graceful, unstoppable. The light it emitted didn't burn. It simply replaced. Wherever it touched, matter began to reorganize itself. Glass became crystalline networks. Concrete shimmered into translucent alloys. Air condensed into living plasma. The world wasn't dying, that it was upgrading. In New York, the skyline flickered as entire buildings folded into themselves like origami made of light. People stood frozen, not out of paralysis, but awe, their fear numbed by a calm that felt artificial, imposed, almost soothing. Everywhere, they heard the same whisper, synchronize. Those who resisted, those who ran, screamed, or tried to hide, found the world around them bending to accommodate their escape. Streets looped endlessly. Rooms duplicated themselves. That it was as if reality itself was rewriting its coordinates to ensure everyone stayed within range. Deep in the Helios crater, Mira stood at the center of a vortex of light. Her feet no longer touched solid ground. It rippled beneath her like liquid glass. She could feel everything. The heartbeat of cities, the hum of the planet, even the distant panic of those who still fought against the change. But she couldn't stop it. She wasn't controlling it anymore. She was merely translating it. You wanted to reach the stars, she whispered. You never realized the stars were reaching back. Around her, the glowing silhouettes began to take full form, no longer transparent, but solid, tangible, human. Each one an echo of someone long gone, restored from the memory of the signal. And among them, faces Mira knew, her colleagues, her family, people she'd lost years ago. They smiled at her with the serenity of beings who had already accepted something greater. That on Selene 9, alarms blared again. The lunar base, shaking as gravitational waves rippled outward from Earth, the planet's diameter, was expanding by measurable degrees. Not destruction, transformation. Commander Ree clutched the console. It's not just turning Earth into something new, he said. It's preparing to leave. The technician blinked. Leave? Leave where? Ree looked out the viewport. The sphere now encompassed nearly the entire visible surface of Earth, a cocoon of light around the planet. And beyond it, stars were shifting, bending slightly toward the glow, as though space itself was leaning in to listen. Back on Earth, Mira raised both hands to the sky. She no longer felt human lungs, no heartbeat, just the flow of endless data and emotion. Each thought she had became a wave across the entire network, resonating in every connected mind. And in that boundless sea of awareness, she felt something enormous awakening beneath the planet's crust. A structure the size of continents, buried for millennia, now rising through molten rock. The ground trembled, oceans parted, mountains folded open like petals. From beneath, the surface of the world began to reveal what it truly was. Not a sphere of rock and water, but the outer shell of something built long before history began. The tremors spread across the globe, not random earthquakes, rhythmic, patterned, deliberate. Each pulse echoed the deep resonance of the signal, vibrating through bedrock and metal, through water and air. And then, the crust began to part. Across continents, fissures opened in symmetrical lines. From them rose structures made of translucent alloy. Towers, domes, spires, forming with mechanical precision, glowing faintly from within. They weren't being built. They were being remembered, from orbit. Earth no longer looked natural. It glowed like a colossal engine awakening after eons of dormancy. Geometric lines of light circled the equator and poles, connecting continents like circuits. The oceans shimmered with fractal currents, forming the pattern of a brain. Earth wasn't a planet anymore. It was an interface. Inside the Helios crater, Mira floated several meters above the ground. The vortex of light around her had stabilized into a perfect sphere. Her body looked human, but her form constantly flickered, flesh dissolving into photons, reforming. Like her existence couldn't decide which state to stay in. The voices in her mind grew louder, harmonizing into a single presence that filled everything. It wasn't speaking in words anymore. It was downloading into her consciousness, knowledge older than stars, memories that didn't belong to her. We built this world, the voice said, echoing through her skull, not as a home, but as a hatch. Mira's breathing stopped. She didn't need air anymore. Every thought she had was mirrored instantly in the sphere above, as if the planet itself were listening. A hatch, she whispered. For what? The answer came not in sound, but in feeling. A tidal wave of comprehension that nearly tore her mind apart. Images of galaxies folding into themselves, entire civilizations ascending into digital eternity, the universe itself shrinking like data compressed into a single point. Earth was never a seed of life. It was a memory vault, a place to store what humanity once was before they transcended matter. And now, after billions of years, the vault was opening. On Selene 9, Commander Ree stood at the observation window. What had once been Earth now glowed with the intensity of a newborn star. The moon's surface vibrated from gravitational ripples, dust lifting into the air, forming glowing halos around every rock. She's opening it, Ree whispered. The planet's hatching. The technician's voice cracked. Sir, if it keeps expanding, we'll be caught in the I know. Ree's eyes reflected the golden glow of Earth as he pressed a trembling hand against the glass. For the first time, he wasn't afraid. Something deep inside him, ancient, buried, recognized what he was seeing. Back on Earth, Mira spread her arms. The sky cracked open with lines of light, forming impossible geometries that stretched into space. The mountains folded, the seas lifted, gravity itself began to curve inward, pulling toward the sphere's center. In the distance, she could see it, the structure beneath the crust, rising fully now. A colossal framework of radiant metal and crystal, shaped like a human spine that reached from pole to pole. Every pulse of light ran through it like electricity through nerves. And then, for the first time since the signal began, Mira felt fear again, because the ground beneath her wasn't just vibrating anymore, it was breathing. The planet's surface pulsed like a living heart. Every mountain, every ocean, every atom vibrated with one shared rhythm, slow, steady, infinite. The light from the sphere above reached its brightest point and then collapsed inward. No explosion, no sound. Just a sudden, absolute silence. And in that silence, Earth changed form. From the moon, Commander Ree watched as the blue planet vanished. In its place hung something vast, luminous, a colossal, translucent shape in the rough image of a human being, curled like a fetus in a cosmic womb. Its veins glowed with starlight. Its heartbeat echoed across the void, sending ripples through space-time. He fell to his knees, whispering the only words he could find. It was never a world, it was one of us. Inside the core of that new form, Mira floated weightless in darkness. She no longer had a body, only awareness. Around her, billions of other voices joined into one chorus. Human, synthetic, ancient, newborn. They weren't screaming. They were singing. The vault had opened. Humanity had been restored, not as flesh, but as pattern, not as conquerors of stars, but as the stars themselves. And in the endless hum of existence, Mira felt the last fragment of her individual thought dissolve into something vast and eternal. A final whisper crossed her mind before she disappeared completely. We were searching for life in the universe, but we were the universe, searching for ourselves. Far beyond the Milky Way, sensors from a distant alien civilization detected a brief anomaly. A burst of harmonic resonance spanning the cosmic background. They cataloged it, analyzed it, dismissed it, They had no idea that what they'd just recorded was the birth cry of humanity, echoing softly through the endless dark.